If you're a hiker, you've landed on this video for one reason. You have an upcoming trip and you're stressed out about the pain that you've experienced on past hikes and you need a way out. Or you can't find a training system that actually transfers over to the mountains and you're looking for a hiking specific training, which means you're in the exact place that you need to be because your dream hike shouldn't be a sufferfest. If you're a hiker who has struggled to find a proven training system specific to hiking that eliminates all pains, builds rock solid legs and lungs for any bucket list trip, then stick around and watch this whole video where I'll guide you through the exact 3-step process that I've used for over 150 hikers, including multiple hikers who have come back from serious injuries and were able to crush mountains again. You're probably wondering how this is going to be different than the physiotherapy, the personal trainers, or the CrossFit coaches that haven't been able to help so far. It comes down to 3 words that will guide the entire process, which I'll walk you through shortly. And I guarantee that this system is the missing piece that will actually address the demands that hikers face on the trails. So if you're a hiker with a bucket list trip that's finally on the calendar and you don't want this trip to be an absolute sufferfest, like the last one was, then all that you need to do is follow this simple 3-step process that I'm about to share with you. If you do this, you're going to be training with a proven system, which means no more injuries, no more boot camp classes that never feel like they actually transfer over to the mountains. This is 100% specific to hiking for hikers for the demands that we face in the mountains. But there's actually one super important thing that I need to make clear before we get into it. It's that this system is only going to work if you're actually going to follow it. So if your problem is more that you jump around from workout to workout and you just can't stay consistent month after month, then this still isn't going to work for you. You have to get consistent first. So as long as you're willing to invest in yourself, put in some hard work, and stay consistent, then make sure you watch this video right to the end, and I'll show you the exact training system that will make any hike and any peak accessible to you. Now, if you're a moderately experienced hiker, you've tried a couple things before. So here's why those other options have fallen short for you. Physiotherapy is really good at getting us back to daily living, but not great for mountain performance. Tends to be focused on the corrective stuff to get out of pain and doesn't have the built-in training and the progression that we need to actually be confident in the mountains. And when it comes to personal trainers, they tend to be generic and focused on a visual transformation versus an actual physical capacity and resiliency that we need from those hiking injuries. Group coaching, things like CrossFit, Orange Theory, or boot camp style workouts, they aren't specific to the movement gaps that you have, and they don't provide the right progressions, and they're definitely not going to take into account your timeline to get to your goal. Whereas the Mountain Athlete Program is your map. It's going to be built for where you are today and the height that you're training for and what that timeline actually is. It's following this 3-step map that's exactly how Doug went from a year of physiotherapy with no change to within weeks noticing a change in his pain levels and his range of motion in his knee. Within 3 months, he was able to return to his favorite activities like hiking, golfing, and hockey. Or there's Denise, who reached out to me because she was completely lost just doing random unstructured workouts at home. We took her from that to being completely ready to crush the Grand Canyon rim to rim in just 4 months. Then there was Jeremy, who unfortunately didn't find me until after he had blown out his ACL. He's got probably one of the most demanding jobs in the mountains, which is a heli-ski guide. He blew up his ACL, and then he reached out to me, and I took him every step of the way through his rehab process and back to guiding full-time in the Canadian Rockies, where he skis more vert in a single season than most people will do in their lifetime. Not to mention in the summer times, he's constantly trail running, hiking, biking, and climbing. But if you're feeling a little bit tight on time and you're worried about the commitment there, don't worry. We have Liam, who works out of town on a pretty regular basis and only could commit about 30 to 40 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. And he was still able to see a ton of success within the program, and it got him back out into the mountains. Now grab your notepad, because what I say next, you're going to want to write down as I reveal how the 3-step map actually works and the downfalls that you're going to face if you don't implement it. So those 3 important words that you're going to want to remember are pain, quality, and quantity. This is the exact framework that has to be followed to take the guessing out of training and make sure that you get consistent results so that you feel fully prepared for your trip. Let me explain all three of these steps. So the first step that is always, always, always missed is eliminating the pain. So if you're in physical pain or you've been in physical pain in the past, it changes your biomechanics and how you actually move your body. The body is so good at adapting that it will find a way around. It will always do what the brain tells it to do because it thinks it's in a dire situation when it's not necessarily. So injuries occur, we have pain, and we change how we're actually moving. And unless you solve for this piece, you'll continually move in a suboptimal way so that if you try and ramp up the amount of training you're doing, it won't be in that optimal way. And eventually something's going to wear down and you're going to have injuries. You're going to hit plateaus, that kind of stuff. So step one, you have to eliminate pain or look back at the pain you've had in the past and make sure it's been addressed as well. The next piece is building up the quality of your movements. We need to make sure that you move well, we have strength, and we build in resiliency to injuries. We need to make sure that you're moving just in the way you were designed to move, which means we have to retrain a lot of the patterns that have been ingrained. So as a hiker, this often means getting away from that heavily quad dominant movement and learning how to use things like your glutes, your hamstrings, and everything below the knee. And then finally, we get to hit step 3, which is where most people immediately go, which is building up the quantity, which means if we're in the gym setting, we're adding sets, reps, weight, intensity. And if we're out in the mountains, we're adding time, duration, speed, those kind of things. So let's just break down this 3-step framework a little bit further so that you can understand how to hike pain-free, build in resiliency and the strength and endurance that you need for your big trip. So again, your body adapts short term, but that's not good for us long term. So we have to eliminate the pain, then get back to ideal movement patterns. So once that pain is gone, it's time to retrain the body by getting very specific on how you're actually moving and making sure you're feeling it into the right areas. Then after that, you can safely start to add load and know that you're not going to have injuries or plateaus that break you down before you're ready for your trip. So I'm going to show you 2 maps, what most hikers do and why training falls short and the trip starts to head downhill really fast. And then I'm also going to show you what your next trip with the right map can look like and how it'll make your trip absolutely unforgettable. So what happens is most hikers are going to plan that trip, and once it's finally locked in, they're going to decide, hey, I need to train for this thing. You're going to ramp up your cardio, maybe hit some random leg exercises that are supposed to be good for hiking, and immediately start cranking out way more quantity. But remember, quantity is step 3. We have to go through step 1 and 2 to build solid foundations. Otherwise, we're inevitably going to end up with pain, plateaus, and injuries, and the trip's going to break down, and it turns into an absolute sufferfest on the trail. But if we have the right map and know what your next trip's going to be, we can sit down, assess your starting point, look at the goal, the time horizon that we're working with, and then build a plan that can walk you through all 3 of those steps of eliminating pain, retraining for optimal movements, and then eventually cranking out a ton of quantity so that you have the foundations that you need in place to steadily progress towards that goal so that the trip is filled with amazing views that you can actually appreciate and you have endless memories of that trip and it actually goes so well that you can't wait to start planning your next one. Now, if the last trip sounds familiar and you'd rather have the next trip be different, where everything is laid out step by step by step and all you have to do is show up, put in the work, and you get to arrive at the trailhead confident, just like Denise did, where she went from having no clue how to prep for the Grand Canyon rim to rim to feeling 100% prepared in just 4 months. Wouldn't that be nice? Instead of hoping and praying that your body doesn't fall apart leading up to your hike, or worse, on your hike, instead you knew that resiliency to injury was built into the program and that you had the legs and the lungs to take on that bucket list trip. Wouldn't that give you a lot of peace of mind? Now, I realize that this sounds great, but how long does it actually take to start to see those results? Well, I'll tell you what, it's not going to take forever. You're going to start noticing changes within weeks, not months, and sometimes it's literally just days. That's how long it took Liam to notice a change after literally a lifetime of patellar tendon issues. It took him 4 days to send me an audio message that was like, dude, I cannot believe how good I feel already, and it's only the first week. But the craziest part about this is that it's not a one-off story. Doug did the same thing in a couple of weeks after a year of physio for a kneecap injury that he had, where he had to get some surgery. He wasn't able to squat, he wasn't able to lunge, he definitely wasn't able to hike. Within a couple of weeks, noticeable changes after a full year with no progress. Couple of weeks. Then within a couple of months, he was squatting, he was lunging, and he was hiking. Just in time for his trip to Italy, where he was able to get a ton of steps in and go hiking with basically no pain. He would have a bit of an ache at the end of the day, which, considering where he started, like a little bit of an ache, he was taking that every single day. He loved that. But I know what you're thinking. What about the cost? So I'll ask you, what is it costing you to stay where you're at today? The physio, the massage, the reality that you might not actually complete the hike that you've been dreaming about. Or worse, you come home afterwards and everyone that you told about the trip is now asking about the trip, and you have to tell them that, like, you didn't finish, or you didn't reach the summit, you didn't get to go do the side quests, just because you weren't prepared for the trip and you didn't do the training. Instead, the trail just absolutely chewed you up and spit you out, and you spent your evenings in the tent or in the hut licking your wounds instead of one of the most important parts of the trip, which is in the evenings, getting to connect and build those memories. So this dream trip, the experiences that you're going to have on this trip are too important and too life-changing for you to just gamble and roll the dice on this. So you tell me, what's the cost of not investing in yourself and not taking your training seriously? So let's take a quick pause here. Let's think back to your last trip. Be honest with yourself. How did it actually go? If it went exactly how you planned and you felt 100% the whole time, then honestly, I love that for you. You can click off the video. You're locked in. You don't need this. But you're still here, which means that's not the case for you. And now you have an opportunity. I just walked you through those 3 steps that can give you the confidence to go into this trip fully prepared. So now it's your choice. Do you want to keep gathering information, or do you want to start training? If you're serious about training and you want to learn exactly how I can build a map that will take you from where you're standing right now today all the way to your bucket list trip and back, and provided that you're actually qualified and serious about training, then I want you to click the link in the description, book the call, and I'll show you exactly how we can build a map just for you that will eliminate all pains, build the legs and the lungs that you need so that you can feel confident on the trail and you can make your trip be memorable for all of the right reasons. So click the link below, book the call, and we'll talk soon.